Let's go into text. I'm going to study the Word and try to pick up where we left off. God, it seems like it's been so long. I got gaps in between and we got thoughts in between, so we're going to try to catch us back up to where we're at, and as we move forward into where God will have us to be. You see this picture up here, this picture of this road. You probably wonder, what in the world does a road got to do with where he's going with this? Well, I had a great insight about a week ago, last week or so, as I was heading home. I seen this great illustration of the covenantal mind of God, and I just wanted to kind of share that as we begin our study, because as I looked at this, in order to set it up, I want to take a look at, in the book of Yochanan, 10:10. A very common and passage of text we said over and over, but as I seen it, this passage came to mind, and I'm thinking like, I got to share this thought. So in Yochanan, the book of Yochanan, book of John, chapter 10, verse 10, it says this: "The thief comes only in order to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come so that they may have life, and life in its fullest measure." I love it. Another rendering says, life and that more abundantly. Amen. He told me, it says, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He says, but I have come that they may have life and have it in its fullest measure, or life more abundantly. Now, what was it that I saw that all that came to my mind? Road construction. A road construction project. When I seen it, I'm thinking, do you know why those things are out there? Now, Anita's probably going to think like, I cannot believe he's embracing that, because I'm forever looking at them. I said, now why did they tear up that road? You know, this is perfect. Here comes more pylons. I don't like all the pylons. But when I seen it, I've seen something that was a great illustration. See, because what I saw was, I didn't understand all those pylons and things are out there. But what it made me aware of is that I was aware, especially, again, think in terms of the covenantal mind of God. I was aware of the danger ahead. Something stopped me and made me aware of the danger. See, because as I was just journeying forth and just moving at my own speed, I was unaware if there's a bridge was out, the road was damaged. I'm just pursuing along at my normal course. But all of a sudden, I start seeing these flashing lights and warning me to reduce my speed, slow down. And then on top of it, they had all these pylons that was off along the side that was guiding me from one lane into another lane, so that I can continue as I was driving along safely. And you know, the thing that even took it even a little bit further, I looked up and there was a traffic cop up in the air. You know, you get going like that along the traffic and stuff, and all of a sudden you start turning the radio, just turn on WHO or something like that, and and they give you an aerial view from above that's warning me of impending danger. You know, like it's trying to say, as you move along, there's been an accident at I-283 and the exit, you know, or look out for traffic backup, or this is happening. So there's things I cannot see way out ahead, but because of the perspective, he's looking down and trying to give me warnings about impending danger or accident alerts or any types in traffic. All these things are coming so I can make better decisions regarding my direction of travel. I said, wow, now that's just like God. I went back to that thought, and I started thinking, he says, you know, there's someone here that's trying to steal and kill and disrupt you, but I have come because I understand the nature of who you are, and I come that you may have life and the fullness thereof. So So when I seen it, what he did took me back to those pieces, and I said, that's a great picture of God's plan since the fall of man. See, that's the whole purpose why we've been studying covenants. He says the whole purpose of his word that comes forth, the whole purpose of him defining his covenants, the whole purpose of bringing signs in the sky, blood moons and eclipses, and he's trying to get us, as we journey along the road, he's throwing signs and warnings. He's sending prophets in the text before us. It's like we journey along this road, and what God is trying to do, he's bringing all these different signs and pylons and warnings and flashing and prophetical voices and blood moons, whatever, because he's trying to bump us to get us into the right lane. Because he says the way you're traveling, specifically since the fall, he said, I'm running smack dab into danger because I don't know what I'm doing. But God said he brings all these signs, all these things. He stops things in the road to try to get us into the right lane. Why? So that we may have life and have it more abundantly. So, with all that in play, the title of tonight's study is Traveling in the Right Lane. Traveling in the right lane. You know, again, I felt like there's been a gap of from when my last time I was up here to where we're at now. And we concluded our last study revealing the unchangeable nature of God throughout all creation. So that was the whole thing about, and its consistency of his God patterning and the layering effect of his covenants. See, I said there was a pattern that God has laid in place. God has given us two words, Kozak and Iraq. He said he's trying to get us to understand his consistent nature and that he's a God of order. So through our last studies, was going through the study of covenants, I took you back and we looked through Genesis and watched the consistent nature that God was laying down in terms of how his covenants will flow. For example, specifically we used a topic called the layering effect. It's very relevant, it's very pertinent, and it's very obvious in creation. But see, it's in that, that's what we're seeing as we start talking about the seven definitive covenants of God. First one being the Edenic. Again, this is an overview. An Edenic, which is God's purpose in creation. The second being the Adamic. We're seeing God's promise and protection. This is what we were talking about as each of them are layering over top of the other. And over top, the Adamic came the Noahic, with God's promise and preservation came strongly into place. God showed us the same pattern that he did in creation itself. When he spoke and he brought forth the first day. He didn't destroy everything he did, but he said, in the beginning, and he said, and the beginning end was night, evening and day. Oh, what a wonderful helpmeet. Evening and morning were the first day. And then he opened up the second day, left evening and morning there, that first day, and laid over top the second day. Same thing he's doing with his covenants. See, because just as he overlaid it with the Noahic, he comes back again with the Abrahamic. All the effects and all the elements that were contained in the Edenic and the Adamic and the Noahic are all still in place, but now he lays another one over. And you know, the awesome part about it is that with every covenant that God has made, only thing each of them do, they demonstrate his mercy and his grace. As you even talk about the Mosaic and the Davidic. All of them, each of them, are unique in their own being. They all were interrelated within themselves, building on top of each other, even as we come to the renewed. Every covenant God made with man, again, through him, it just demonstrates his grace and his mercy. Each of them unique, and all of them are locked in together. Collectively, their structure presents an incredible display of unity. When you see how they all fall in together and how they all interlink, how they all are interwoven. It's an incredible display of the oneness. And and the key part that comes in and says, in all God's covenants, man played no part in the making of the covenants. As the originator, I'm saying. For as God and God alone is the sole originator. Why? Because God trying to says, understand man even in his fallen condition, God says, when he looked and there's no one is holy, he swore to himself. As each covenant lays down, so it's not like I can come back and I can undo it because it's not my doing. It's just I'm just a participant under the shadow and the hand of his mercy and his grace. Man had no part in the making of the covenants, but rather man was the object for the covenants. God in binding or in covenanting a people to himself showed himself that he never changes, that he is consistent, that he's unique within himself. That's the power of it. When you're understanding, when God says, he spoke, and he said, and he covenanted with Adam. And he spoke to Abraham, Noah, Moshe. But there's a nature inside that as he's binding the people to himself, he is showing that I'm the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. He doesn't change. And for this reason, each covenant, because of the eternal nature, because of the oneness, because of the uniqueness, who God himself is, and because God's essence is embedded in his creation himself, all the covenants, all his words, all his design are all interlinked, interwoven, embedded within themselves. You can't pull them apart and separate the units. Yeshua says, I and the Father are one. And the same nature is embedded within this covenant grace as well. For this reason, each covenant is integrated into each other. Just like I can't go back and I can't separate day 1 from day 5. I can't pull out elements from day 3 and add it to day 6. That each are all embedded as one. Again, collectively, as we speak in terms of the covenants of God, collectively, the foundational structure and the eternal nature of God's covenants present an incredible display of unity, of oneness. God says, as they become foundational and interlinked and stand firm, it's like God speaks in John and says, heaven and earth will give way before my word fails. Yeah. He shows the full strength and the weight of his covenant grace. With that said, I want to just take a closer look. As we've been setting the foundation, we've been talking about the covenants, we've been talking about the eternal nature. We've been talking about the 7 covenants that have displayed themselves. I want to take a look as we begin. And the first one we'll start with will be the covenant, the Edenic covenant. The Edenic covenant. Again, come to understand that the Edenic covenant itself is the foundational covenant of all creation. It's an incredible, incredible covenant. That in itself, when we start speaking in terms about this Edenic covenant, the Edenic covenant also goes by another name when it's called the covenant of creation. The covenant of creation. We see that display when Jeremiah referenced it in Jeremiah 33:20. When God was speaking, when the prophet was speaking to Jeremiah, and then people were questioning the validity or the firmness of God's word to his chosen people. He says, if you can break my covenant I had with day and night, within all creation, as the elements came into being, he said he spoke it and he linked within it, and then within that whole framework, creation itself, nature itself, had come into fruition, come into being by covenant itself. You know, the Edenic covenant, or this covenant of creation, is unique, being that when we first start, it's foundational. It's the only covenant that's ever been spoken and come into being before sin entered the world. When we go into Genesis 1, and all that he spoke, what he declared in the beginning, let there be light. God's spoken word start impacting everything. This is before, again, all activity. Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 is when, if you want to see the world in perfection, before the fall. So the Edenic covenant is unique in the facet that it came forth before sin entered the world. There's another key thesis that's part of a characteristic or a factor that's part of the Edenic covenant as well. And that is, it's the first expression on earth that speaks of the eternal covenant which is in heaven. What do you mean, the eternal covenant in heaven? God says before the earth was even formed, the Lamb was slain. God says before man fell, Yeshua are redeemed. There was a plan, there's a mind, there's a purpose in God's mind before he even spoke and said, let there be light. It was a covenant that had resided within God himself. And so within this piece, one of the very first expressions of an eternal covenant that was linked in God's mind came forth when he said, let there be. So he spoke. It revealed the covenantal mind of God and his word and the veracity and the strength thereof. You know, it says, Genesis 1:1 says this. I find this interesting. I can understand it now. It says, in the beginning, let me turn there instead of just quote it. It says this. Genesis 1:1, powerful. It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Before Genesis unfolds, God's creative acts, and before God even starts speaking and bringing everything into being, he starts with an amazing declaration when he says, in the beginning. Hi. Do you know that word beginning? Breshis. There's another word it also means. It translates first fruits. I can understand now the power and the weight of why God put so much emphasis on first fruits. Because it was first fruits that God had given to all creation, to man. We say in the beginning, we say Breshish. We talk about Rosh Chodesh. We talk about bringing first fruits, and we act like it's a byproduct. But God is very central and very key and very deliberate when he tells them to bring him the first fruits. It's an integral part of of the covenant relationship that God had established in the earth. It's central to the thinking. First, the begets. You know, the Edenic covenant itself, this whole piece, I'm just going to try to summarize as we try to wrap it. But he says it's twofold. When you look at the essence of the Edenic covenant itself. The first one, the first part of it was the ordering of the universe. When God established the Edenic covenant, when he starts speaking in terms of let there be, God will start ordering and coveting and declaring and putting into place all creation, the earth as we see it. That's all embedded in this covenant, this sinless covenant called the Edenic covenant. As God spoke, and it all started coming to fruition, two profound pieces that were part of it. The first one was the ordering or the declaring or the coveting with all creation itself. He starts bringing things into being. That's what we see as we step into chapter 1. And we see God as he delineates each step, each day, layering. So as we go into Bereshit, or first fruits, or Genesis, we come in and see the very first part God is doing. He brings everything into being. So what is the essence of that? God says as he's preparing for the second half, essence, with all that creation, what he was doing, God was providing life, food, and fellowship for mankind. He's providing life. So as he brought forth all the elements and he separated the light and the darkness, placed the sun and the moon and all the elements that come forth to allow life to exist on earth as we know it. And he starts speaking forth for the earth to bring forth its bountiful harvest, all in preparatory for the second part of the twofold origination of the Edenic covenant. He's bringing forth life, food, and fellowship for man. The second part of the Edenic covenant defines the purpose of man. It defines the purpose of man. So then the question comes in, what is the purpose for man? Man's purpose is fourfold. This is what we see defined in Genesis. I'm going to read. I see it on my editing, and I pulled out a scripture text. I'm going to Genesis 1. I'm looking at verse 26. And it says this. After he went through all the creation of the world itself, as he got the nursery, as he got the all set up for his children, as he had painted the rooms and painted the heavenlies, established all the elements of the area in which they would live. Then he went forth and started saying this, the second half of verse 26, he says, Then God said, Let us make mankind in our image, in the likeness of ourselves, and let them rule over the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, the animals, and all over the earth, and over every crawling creature that crawls on earth. So God created humankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. And God blessed them. and said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, and every living creature that crawls on the earth. And then God said, here, throughout the whole earth I am giving you as food every seed-bearing plant and every tree with seed-bearing fruit. And to every wild animal and bird in the air and creature crawling on the earth in which there is a living soul, I am giving as food every kind of green plant. And that is how it was. God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. I'm going to jump over to the second chapter, and I'm going to verse 22. It says, then God, the rib which God, Adonai, had taken from the person, he made a woman person. He brought her to the man person. And the man said, at last, this is bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She should be called woman because she was taken out of man. There was another passage I wanted to go to. Well, I can't go to that passage because I don't have it there. But as I read through it, it shows that as God created man, there's 4 things that he defined that makes man. As we stand here, I'm saying, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? The first one came in. It says, man was to have the character of God. That's why God trying to tell you, says, what's he use the word? Be ye holy. Why? He says, be ye holy. He says, I'm not asking anything that I haven't put inside you. The whole shape of you, the whole purpose of you. It says God was to say, I would have an image of me, a ruler of me on earth. So I go look back at, as we go to progress, and as we go into this study, but as we go back and progress, I'm thinking like, wow, you can see why the enemy is so aggressive and targeted. To take away, because I know I'm one of the most honest men on earth. And I just radiate with well, I haven't needed it. She's been searching me for years. She can't find any fault. You guys think I'm joking. I mean, I'm not that bad. Even the children, even the young ones. That piece is what we try to look at, and we try to go ahead and define, which I understand our exact purpose. Am I built on earth so that I can walk around and be an architect? Or am I built on earth to be a banker? Am I built on earth to own an NBA team? What is my call? One of the very first things God's trying to say, the first purpose that you have in life is to understand and display my character. So I can mirror myself and be like the Joneses, be like the wannabe, but I'm so misguided because of the fall that I misaligned, don't understand what is my true purpose. And some people say, oh, are you getting religious? Are you getting all righteous and goody-goody? No, I'm trying to find purpose. I'm supposed to reflect what he is. So one of the things that with all the pylons, with all the things trying to bump me back into the right lane so that I can walk right, is that God's trying to say, as you walk, you don't look like me. And you're not reflecting the essence of your call nor your purpose. So here comes the pylons and the warning lights, and here comes a prophet. Someone's trying to get me back over so that I can walk out what I was shaped to be. He says the whole earth groaneth for man to get back in the right lane. But if I can't get back in the right lane because I don't understand my call, my purpose, because I think, because I can sing, or I can act, or I'm a designer, whatever, I'm thinking I can be the world's greatest. God's trying to say that's a byproduct. You find yourself frustrated and hungry and trying to do resumes and trying to shape who you are. You have other people trying to tell you what you are. And God trying to says, you've already been defined in Genesis 1.